Robot, answer the door.
As you command.
Good morning, Mr. Florence. I am James Smith Bentley, son of Sandy Smith. And what can I do for you? I'd like to ask about the robot you are using. When I was in high school, I created it as part of a science project. Then I gave it to my mother and now you have it. I was wondering if I could get the robot back so it could assist me now that I am a science teacher at the same high school I was a student at. Just name your price. Would you pay $2,000 for it? No. How about $1,500? $1,800 or no deal. Fine, but I will have to use a credit card. You have a deal. Robot, James Smith Bentley is your new master. Go with him.
Yes, sir.
Hello, James? Did you get the robot back?
Yes, he sold it to me, and I had to pay $1,800 for it. Thanks for coming in on such short notice, Sergeant Grimm.
No problem. But why sell the robot?
I merely sold it back to its original creator. Sure, I could have told that young man to buzz off, but then he would have resented me. Just because keeping something is legal doesn't make it right. After Jack Watson killed Paul Smith at the Christian Ware Academy in Arlington, Texas, he waited for the police to arrive and then surrendered himself to them, confessing immediately to the murder. Now he will stand trial for the crime. Jack Watson, you have been charged with the murder of Paul Smith. How do you plead?
Your Honor, I plead guilty.
And can you explain to the court why you committed this act?
Last year, I became engaged to Kendra Wilkins. Then about a week before our wedding date, she was found murdered, shot in the head. A note was left on her body threatening me. Then several weeks ago I was also shot and beaten with a baseball bat, but was saved by an innocent bystander. Later, at the hospital, a lawyer named Sandy Smith showed me pics of several men. And I recognized one of the men as the one who attacked me. Then I learned this guy, Paul Smith, had been tried for raping a child in Houston, but was acquitted. Knowing he was a murderer made me decide that if the law wouldn't deal with this creep, I'd have to do it myself. So as soon as I could leave the hospital in Tulsa, I went down to Arlington to find this guy and put a stop to him once and for all.
Your Honor, Mr. Watson should have been more patient with us. Paul Smith was already a person of interest in 2 unsolved murders in Fort Worth, and both of them were of gay men. A witness came forward claiming he saw someone resembling Paul Smith shooting one of the gay men.
If I had not killed Paul Smith that night, he would have killed 3 more people. Your so-called justice system sucks.
That's enough. There is also the previous criminal record of yours to consider, that you were convicted of drug dealing. So I think I've heard enough. Jack Watson, the court accepts your guilty plea and will sentence you to 20 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 12 years. This case is concluded.
Jack, I'm sorry you are going away for a long time. I just wanted to come and thank you personally for saving Carrie's life.
You're welcome. And don't worry about me. Prison life is not so bad if you know how to deal with it.
On the same day as Jack Watson's trial in Fort Worth, Sandy Smith and Deborah Belmont go to Dallas to confront Deborah's parents.
Mr. and Mrs. Belmont, we are here to discuss a possible legal settlement. Your daughter Deborah has been badly traumatized by the way she was treated, first by you and then by the school principal. You must answer for that abuse.
My wife and I were shocked at the notice of us being sued over what we did. We always assumed we were within our rights as parents to discipline Deborah as we saw fit, including sending her to that Christian Ware Academy. Now we learn that not only Deborah, but at least 5 other girls were raped by the principal.
And that he was not only a rapist, but a serial murderer as well. But that's not our fault. We didn't know those things before we sent her to that school. That still doesn't justify what you did directly to her. When she got pregnant with triplets, no less, you forced her to bear those babies as a means of punishing her. How can you think of something involving the creation of people as a punishment? That degrades people themselves. I was only 14 when I got pregnant. I was still a child. My body was not yet fully developed, but not only was I made to carry up to 12 pounds of babies in my belly, but I went through 12 hours of labor before I gave birth vaginally to the triplets. You even denied me an epidural. What lesson were you trying to teach me? The only thing I ever learned from that experience was that you hated me and wanted me to suffer for being female. And because of that, I never want to get pregnant again. Nor do I ever want to follow your sick religion. I came close to suicide because of you. I never felt loved by you. But the people I'm with now treat me with the kind of respect I never was given before. Not by you, not by my boyfriend who got me pregnant, nor by the people at that school. I was brought up with fear and self-loathing, not the love that Jesus was supposed to have preached about. As a mother myself, I always brought my own children up with love and respect. Even when I had to discipline them, it was always to teach them ethical standards, never to make them suffer for their mistakes. Even as adults now, they respect me and are proud to be my children. If you don't respect your children when they are little, they won't respect you when they are adults. Do you really want me to go to court and testify to everything you did to me? If not, let me go. Sign the papers granting me emancipation so I can finally be happy. And we will never have to see each other again, so we won't be reminded of how messed up our lives were. We can all move on.
All right, you win. Give us the papers and we will sign them now.
Deborah, now that you are free from your parents, what do you intend to do with your life? What are my options, Mrs. Smith? You could attend the high school in the town I live in, or you could get a full-time job to make your own money. Actually, I'd like to attend school again. I loved school when I was attending one of my choice. I was learning so many good things. I still have some growing up to do, don't I? Yes, I think the more education you receive, the better your chance will be at having a successful life. You are making a wise choice. And I know exactly what I want to be someday. A lawyer like you. You are my hero, Mrs. Smith.
As word spreads about the scandals associated with the Christian Aware Academy in Arlington, hundreds of parents move to withdraw their children from the school, causing it to collapse, and lawsuits are filed by some of the parents, including the Belmonts. The president of the Faithful Remnant, Nicholas Owen, and the president of Christian Aware Academies, Incorporated, Cindy Everson, now face an angry public over the scandals. Yes, Paul Smith was a registered member of the Faithful Remnant, as well as the principal of our school in Arlington, but at no point did we tell him or anyone else that we wanted to murder atheists or LGBT people. His actions against such people were unlawful, and we as Christians and conservatives stand for law and order.
I was as shocked as anyone else at learning that Paul Smith was raping girls at the school. We didn't hire him to do that.
Wasn't he charged with raping a girl when he was principal of a Christian Aware Academy in Houston? Why would you be so quick to rehire him to work for you again?
He was acquitted of that charge, so we assumed he was innocent. If that wasn't true, it was the fault of the jury who voted to acquit him. So basically they are passing the buck, blaming this one guy for what happened.
That's right. Does that make sense to you?
No. When Paul Smith was about to kill me, he said outright that one of the goals of the Faithful Remnant was to exterminate atheists like me, Debbie and our mothers. He must have thought he was speaking for the organization. Debbie, what do you think about all this? Paul Smith was my uncle. I certainly think he was acting not only as a member of the Faithful Remnant, but as a Mormon. When I met him at the Tuscany Tavern a few years ago, he tried to convert me to Mormonism by telling me I was descended from Joseph Smith. But I already knew that my ancestor was a pervert, forcing into marriage teenage girls using the Mormon teaching of polygamy as an excuse. My father, Rich Smith, was raised a Mormon, but rejected that religion as a teen. Instead, he became atheist. And so I was brought up in an atheist family. Vicky Sims, I don't know how I can ever repay you for saving me. You don't have to do anything for me. I was just doing for you what my Uncle Brad Jackson did for me when I was 7. What do you mean? My birth mother used to let her boyfriends rape me repeatedly when I was only 4 or 5 years old. Those horrible things were among my earliest memories. After I was rescued, I spent years in foster care before being adopted into the Sims family. Lucy and Jessica were the mothers I always needed to help me overcome my past abuse. Ever since then, I vowed I would help others. So I did with you. Maybe when I get older, I can help others in turn. Again, thank you.
One day, Debbie gets a call from the grandfather of Annika McKenzie.
Hello?
Debbie Smith, I am calling to inform you that my wife just died and we are planning her funeral.
My condolences, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Anyway, I was wondering if after the funeral you and your wife would like to take Annika back.
Is that what she wants?
Yes. I promised her that if one of us died before she reached adulthood, I would return her to you, and so I will keep my word. The funeral is tomorrow, so you may pick her up the day after that.
Understood. See you then. James, Annika will be returning to us soon, so I was wondering if you and Penny could move out to make room for her.
Sure, Penny and I have been considering moving out for a while. Is that okay, Penny?
Sure, we can move in with my uncle. There is room at his house for us plus our children. I will start packing.
Sure, I will prepare the bedrooms for you, Penny and the kids. I will have to convert a room that is currently an office for me and give it to one of the kids, though. One question, though. Will that robot be coming with you? No, it will stay at the school. Its purpose is to assist me with classroom duties. Good, I never really liked having it around, even when it was serving me in the mayor's office. Then why did you buy it from me? Your mother thought you could use the money while you were in Denton, and the robot did prove useful to me. But it was quite boring to talk to. You didn't program it with much of a soul, did you? I wasn't trying to create something to talk to, only to work for me. As long as it obeys my orders, that's enough.
Thank you for taking me back, Debbie and Carrie. I am so happy to be here again. As long as you are happy, we are happy. Welcome back. So how many of us are at the mansion now? You, me, Mother Sandy, Annika, Richard, Sarah Belmont, Deborah Belmont, Whitney Owen, Charlie Wilson, and Janet Wilson. That's 10 people. That's a good number.
It's nice to see you here again. Sorry about your grandmother, though.
She had been battling cancer for years. I guess it was her time to go. Oh, who is this? Nice to meet you, Annika. I hope we can be friends. I can't wait to hear your story. You really gave birth to triplets? How did you survive? Lucky, I guess. And now I am living with one of them and am ready to start a new life here. I hope all goes well.
Jack Watson, having been sentenced to prison for murder, now arrives at a maximum security facility in Huntsville. Later, he writes a letter to Sandy Smith describing his situation.
I've only been here a few days, but I find that one of my fellow inmates is Ted Wilson, who I know was sent here for murdering his defenseless wife. Everyone here knows what he did to his wife as well as to Carrie Sims and other girls, and so he is one of the most hated people around here. The other prisoners often use him as a punching bag, and the warden and guards look the other way and don't intervene. So I actually think I'm going to like it here. It's so amusing to see a bully brought down to ruin.
Come on, you wimp. You were so tough against girls and women. Why not against me? Stop, you've done enough.
I don't think so. This is payback for all the things you did to girls. I have 2 daughters and no one will harm them and get away with it.
No! Not you too.
Not so tough. Not so high and mighty like you were long ago in the town of yours. Your father can't protect you anymore.
One of the reasons I oppose the death penalty is because that is actually a merciful punishment. Prisoners like Ted Wilson suffer even more by being locked up with others who hate them and want to punish them often.
Yeah, I get it. As long as Jack is satisfied with having a target to pick on who clearly deserves it, I guess I have no need to worry about him.
That's your perspective. I didn't want him to go and kill his fiance's killer, because replacing him at my club would be a bitch. Now I have to take applications to be your new club manager and chief bouncer.
What about George Anderson? Hasn't he been working for Aphrodite Agency as a bodyguard for models?
Indeed. I will go ask him if he is willing to move to Tulsa. Thanks for the suggestion.
Thanks for agreeing to meet with me again.
Of course, anytime. So what is your proposal?
I submitted your story ideas to the studio that I am part owner of and they approved it. So production work on it will begin soon. However, I insisted that Georgia Palmer and Jennifer Gaines play major parts in the movie. When I was in college, Jennifer and Georgia were my best friends and we did theater work together. So the 3 of us made a pact that if one of us became successful first, she would help the other 2 succeed as well. And I kept my word.
By casting them as Hermine Benson and Lucy Conrad in the Blazing Beauty show.
Exactly. All you have to do now is sign a contract allowing your story ideas to be made into the movie. And you will be paid well for it.
How much money are we talking about here?
$100,000 to start. Then once the movie is completed and released, you will be paid more based on how successful it becomes.
Wow, you have a lot of faith in me, Mrs. Jones. I never dreamed of being paid that much just for making up a story.
Well, I think you deserve it, because you are a wonderful person, Mrs. Sims. Besides, superhero movies are still popular, but it seems people are getting tired of seeing the same characters over and over, so you will be bringing new blood to the genre. Wasn't that your intention?
Yes. I will sign the deal, Mary.
Note: this is a remake of an episode that originally appeared in an alternate timeline of the Debbie and Carrie show. One weekend, a conference of Unitarian Universalists in Texas is held in Dallas, attended by hundreds of participants around the state and beyond, including. Thanks for coming to this convention, Lucy Sims. It is always good to see you and others from your town here.
So how is your church in Fort Worth doing, Dale?
It is surviving. That's really all I can say at this point. It seems younger people just aren't as attracted to forms of Protestant services as they were in previous generations. That's why mainline Protestant churches have already collapsed and even more conservative religious groups are dying out. You'd think as an atheist I'd be happy to see religions like Christianity die off, but I still believe people, including children, can benefit from a religious community that doesn't lie to them or abuse them.
Yes, but there are so many options for people to experience community that doesn't involve religion.
Well, it's almost time for my lecture on the Baha'i faith. You are welcome to join me there. At first glance, The Baha'i Faith and Unitarian Universalism appear much alike, with both being champions of human rights, accepting of other religions, and seeking to make humanity better by showing a better path to follow. But the reality is different. The Baha'i Faith is actually an authoritarian cult, much like so many others that have arisen to strangle free thinking in people. So for many years I have sought to warn people, including my fellow UUs, about it. And here is my advice for UUs encountering Baha'is who try to teach them their faith. 1. Be friendly, but reserved. Most Baha'is are genuinely loving for humanity in general, being ignorant of the actual failings of their own religion, just like the members of most other religious groups in the world. 2. Be willing to work with Baha'is on issues you have in common, but only on your terms. They are decent allies against racism and for human rights in general, but they will avoid issues regarding gay rights, seeing gays as diseased.
What? How can they call same-sex attraction a disease? That's bigotry. They claim to oppose prejudice of all kinds, but their view of homosexuality makes them liars. It insults my very existence.
3. Do not confront them about their falsehoods and failings of their religion, unless they actually try to convert you. Most Baha'is are not emotionally equipped to deal with the totality of the facts regarding why their religion is not suited for most people in the world. However, if a Baha'i does ask specific questions about why you reject the Baha'i faith, be honest. Do not sugarcoat the truth in such cases. My name is Scott and I am visiting here from Los Angeles. I actually considered becoming a Baha'i at one point. Like my Aunt Lucy, I am an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I was looking for a new religion. Ironically, when I compared the Baha'i faith with Islam, Baha'i came up short because of the Islamic claim that Muhammad was the seal of the prophets. Yet the Baha'i faith claims Muhammad as a messenger of God and Islam as a true religion. That's a contradiction I couldn't accept. So I looked at Islam instead and eventually accepted that. And now I am much happier than I ever was as a witness. You converted to Islam because that religion fits your spiritual orientation, just as your Aunt Lucy became atheist because of her spiritual orientation. I will explain more about that concept in a bit. Continuing the original topic. 4. If you attend Baha'i gatherings, never go alone. Such events known as firesides, unity feasts and Baha'i holy day celebrations are designed to manipulate seekers into learning more about the faith, but they are profoundly one-sided in their depictions. People who are going through periods of depression or grieving over a loss may find themselves subjected to love bombing by Baha'is. That's also something Jehovah's Witnesses have in common, it seems. We witnesses actually deluded ourselves into thinking we were being kind to people who needed comfort. Now I realize we were scamming them. My wife and I are bringing up our daughter Dinah in Islam, but we also attend UU services in addition to Islamic services, because we want her to know all sorts of religion, not just one. That way, if Dinah decides to also follow Islam as an adult, we will know her faith is genuine. Even in the Quran itself, it says, "Let there be no compulsion in religion." And that is why extremist groups that profess Islam, like the Taliban, are actually evil cults, to Islam what the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Mormons are to Christianity. There is indeed a lot of evil in religion, and a lot of good. That's why we all need critical thinking to sort out the false and harmful crap from what is good and true. Moving on. 5. If a Baha'i wants to join a UU church as a Unitarian Baha'i, welcome him. Not all Baha'is are loyal to the Universal House of Justice, the leadership body of the faith, and those that want to think freely should be helped to find a place to do so. UU churches and fellowships are ideal for this.
But over 99% of Baha'is are loyal to that body, and they ruthlessly exclude any professing Baha'i that isn't loyal. Then they have the nerve to talk about the unity of religion. Those hypocrites. That's why I refused to become a Baha'i after I was taught the faith in Miami. It only took a few minutes of searching the internet to find damning reasons to reject it, including your blog, Mr. Husband. And I now attend UU services, having been introduced to Unitarian Universalism by my daughter Carrie and my colleague Dr. Drake. What a refreshing contrast.
So can you explain what spiritual orientation is? Yep, that's coming right up. Just as people have different sexual orientations, they may be hetero, homo, or bisexual and also may be cis or transgender, so likewise they may have different spiritual orientations. This explains why two different people, Even members of the same family, raised in their parents' religion, may end up following different religions, or none at all, as adults. They don't really have a choice. They feel compelled to find a religion that fits their emotional and spiritual needs, if the religion they were raised in doesn't suit them. The problem is especially troubling if they are in a homophobic or transphobic religious community, and they are not straight or cisgender. Even so, one can still identify as religious without being bigoted or ignorant. I have come up with the concept of spiritual orientation to explain something about human nature that seems to be a puzzle to atheists. Despite the dogmas of major religions like Christianity and Islam appearing to be debunked by reality itself, there are still nearly 2 billion Christians in the world, as well as over 1 billion Muslims and millions of followers of other religions around the world. There are relatively few atheists and agnostics in the world, and most of them are found in countries like China and North Korea, where atheism is forced on the people by communist governments. The experiences of the 20th century proved that communism as an ideology was just as dogmatic, arrogant, and embarrassing as Christianity, so it was eventually discredited. Good riddance. One of the biggest mistakes, in my opinion, that atheists make in attacking the dogmas of religions like Christianity is they're doing so specifically to promote atheism rather than freedom of thought. The most blatant example of this was the publication of Richard Dawkins' book The God Illusion. The implication that all people who choose to believe in any sort of God are mentally ill is insulting rather than enlightening, which is why I never bought that book. It enables Christian dogmatists to counterattack by claiming that atheists are just as bigoted and dogmatic as they are, which is simply not true. Maybe less dogmatic and bigoted, but not the same as the way Christians tend to believe in the Bible without question. Just as Scott mentioned the Taliban as an evil form of Islam, so there are toxic types of atheists. Examples included Madalyn Murray O'Hair, the founder of American Atheists, and Ayn Rand, the founder of Objectivism. Those two arrogant, bigoted extremists brought disgrace to atheism in America, and that made many think atheism itself was evil. I wish neither of them had ever existed. And that concludes my lecture.
Thank you for your explanations, Dale. These things are a big help in understanding how people can get so messed up in religions, and how we can still respect religions too.
The Christian Aware Academy in Arlington, Texas shut down. The leaders of the faithful remnant regrouped to plot their next move.
I have decided to expel from the faithful remnant all the Mormons who joined us before. After all, Paul Smith was a Mormon. We won't repeat the mistake we made by accepting that heretic. Are you sure about that, Nicholas? We had many members in Utah, a mostly Mormon state. We won't be able to influence that state now. Utah is a state that is certain to vote Republican in every election, so we need not concern ourselves with it. We should focus more on stirring up Christian populations in states like Texas to keep them from turning liberal.
I agree. A pure movement is a stronger one that will send a better message. No more need to compromise. Unfortunately, in addition to losing our school completely in Arlington, we have also lost hundreds of students in more than a dozen other Christian Way academies, thus my company has lost a lot of money. So I can no longer send extra funds to help with the activities of the faithful remnant.
I'm sure this is only a temporary setback. Muslims conquered Spain and Portugal in the Middle Ages, but Christians took back those lands, though it did take several centuries. Just be patient. Our time of restoring faith and morals in America will come. God has promised we will win in the Bible. And God keeps His word, always.
They really don't get it, do they? Meanwhile, in Bubby and Carrie's town. Mrs. Sterling, I need you to lay down and start pushing.
Oh. My God. This hurts so much. Eric, don't ever get me pregnant again. Or I'll kill you.
You don't really mean that, do you? Perhaps not, but have you ever been kicked in the groin? Now try to imagine being kicked there a dozen times over. That is what labor for a woman feels like.
You wanted to see me, Chief Root?
Yes. First, congrats on getting married to Matt. But I was surprised that I wasn't invited to the ceremony.
That's because we didn't bother with anything formal. We just had Reverend Denton conduct the event in the sanctuary after last Sunday's service. As you know, I am an orphan, so I had no family to come and attend, and Matt was estranged from his alcoholic parents, so for years it has been just us two.
I see. Well, I'm thinking of resigning as police chief to have my own wedding in a few months. I made contact online with this Jewish lady that my mother told me about. Her name is Barbara Shrike and she lives in Boston. She will be arriving here tomorrow to see me for the first time.
And you are willing to marry her already?
Call me a mama's boy if you want, but my mother really likes her and so that makes me think she will be good for me. Anyway, here is a pic of her.
Could you send that pic to my own smartphone? I think I may know her, but I need to double check our records.
Sure, no problem.
Welcome to the Tuscany Tavern. What would you like? I'm not here to eat. And I need to talk to Jessica. I know she is here and she is expecting me. Sure, one moment. What do you want to see me about? And should I address you as Sergeant Lisinski now? No, my last name is still Graham. Anyway, several years ago, you gave a lecture at our UU church about domestic violence and how you were a victim of it. And I remember you showing us a pic of the one who abused you back then. You said her name was Barbara, right? That's right. She was my last love partner before I met Lucy. Well, it looks like she may be coming to this town. Look at this pic. Oh, no. She looks much older, but that is certainly the Barbara I knew before. Then you need to have a serious talk with Police Chief Root about her. She is coming here to meet with him. And possibly marry him. What? Not again.
So what do you know about this Barbara that I don't?
First, she is not Jewish. In fact, she was raised in an atheist family, just as I was. Second, she is an alcoholic. She drank heavily when I was with her. Third, she has a violent temper and she beat me several times when I was living with her. Fourth, she became a Jehovah's Witness to help her quit drinking and then became a mind slave to a male witness who somehow persuaded her to become his fiancée. But then they broke up and she left the witnesses to become a Baha'i. The last time I saw her, she said she was still a lesbian. So why the hell would she be trying to hook up with a Jewish man who happens to live in the same town as me?
So you think she is using me to try to get back in your life?
Most likely. She did tell me I was the best lover she ever had.
That's still quite a stretch. She didn't even contact me directly. She first befriended my mother. Apparently they attended synagogue together in Boston. As you know, I was born in Ireland, but spent my high school years in Boston before moving to Texas 15 years ago to join this town's police force. You know the rest.
Sorry if I seem paranoid. It's just an odd coincidence, I guess.
Stranger things have happened, I guess. But now that you have told me the truth about her, I am quite happy to not have her in my life. You may deal with her instead. And I will have a talk with my mother about playing matchmaker with me. I guess mothers sometimes do not know best.
Thanks for coming with me to meet Barbara at the airport.
Of course. We need to present a united front towards her here, just as we did when we dealt with her in Boston. She must never be allowed to hurt you again.
And here she comes now.
So this is the place you actually met Barbara?
Yes. That's why I didn't want to come here after we hooked up. That and I was worried you might get drunk like she did.
No, I've always been a strict teetotaler. I can't even stand the taste of alcohol.
Look who just showed up. Gee, which is worse, a brainwashed cultist or a hypocrite pretending to be a brainwashed cultist?
Good question. Of course, it is better still to be neither.
Jessica, is that you? And what are you doing here? I could ask you the same damn question, Barbara, aren't you a little too old to be chasing after men you haven't even met yet? Seriously, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you saying that Teddy Rue doesn't want to see me and sent you to intercept me instead? That's right. You weren't coming to my town for him, were you? You were coming after me. After all these years, you still want me, right? Well, you can never have me.
I am Jessica's wife and have been for almost 30 years. I gave her the stable life you couldn't, and so you are nothing compared to me. So you should turn around and simply go back to Boston.
But I just got here, and can't I at least have a meeting with Teddy Rue to talk things out with him? For the record, only his mother ever calls him Teddy. He prefers to be called Theodore. And he already knows you are a lesbian and about your past history, thanks to me. So you will have no chance with him. You will only break his heart. Just as you broke mine. You are wrong, Jessica. I quit drinking long ago, and I am no longer the violent bitch you knew. I got plenty of therapy to deal with my personal demons, and my therapist was Jewish. I became interested in Judaism after I was kicked out of the Baha'i community in Boston for hooking up with another lesbian who was also Baha'i. And then she committed suicide. Her death tore my heart out. Oh, no. I am so sorry. That's why, once I learned about Theodore Rue from his mother, I wanted to come to your town. To see him and also to see you. To see if there was some way you could forgive me for what happened so we both could move on together. Because aside from you and Theodore, I have no one else that I could love in my life. Barbara, I'm sorry, but I left the past with you behind so long ago I never think about you anymore. Even if Lucy was not with me, I could never be in love with you again. Nor can Police Chief Root. So just go to a hotel, stay there for a night or two, and then return to Boston. That's all you can do, really. Thank you for standing here with me against Barbara. But I find myself wondering if I did the right thing by rejecting her again.
Of course you did. How would you have felt if Patrick had come here and tried to get back into Carrie's life, trying to split her and Debbie apart?
I would have kicked his damned ass. He hurt her. Debbie is the best thing in Carrie's life, and no one should try to replace her, ever.
Exactly. And it is the same with you and me. Forever.